Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us on this live stream. We're going to start talking about the advocacy challenges that we face. And I am so grateful to be joined with other advocates. We'll have more people joining us here shortly. A few people had some issues jumping on. We're waiting on Libby and a few other people. So, to start off with, I wanted to start with how advocacy chooses us at the most unexpected times. And do an introduction of each speaker and how they got into advocacy, because I believe that that is an important part of this discussion tonight. So we're going to start off with Suzanne. And how did you get into advocacy? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Del, for inviting me tonight. And I am in Volusia County. I got into advocacy, you're right, it was at an unexpected time. I was extremely ill, and it had been for many, many months. And I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. It took forever to get the diagnosis, like a year and 9 months. But strangely enough, at the time when I was going through, I was getting towards the end of it, and I had been living in my same house for 35 years in a nice neighborhood. Raised my son here, and out of the clear blue, we got notice that they were going to rezone part of my neighborhood for a gas station, and it wasn't even on the main road for part of the rezoning. So it was in the neighborhood. I mean, imagine a gas station going up next to your house. So it became the focus, and there was a forest there, and a lake right near it. So there was a lot of flooding questions and all types of questions to do with everything to do with the gas station itself and the storage of gas and you name it, it was all there. The city I live in is Ormond Beach, and the residents in Ormond Beach went crazy off the charts. Not just me, but others. And I started realizing, like, I had no idea how government worked, but I'm a quick study, and I also read a lot and pay attention. And it became very obvious to me that there were an enormous amount of developer funds going into the local commission in our city. And I kind of just became so enraged at everything happening all at once. And I was sick having to deal with this gas station going into my neighborhood, literally, that I just became active. I just started thinking, I've got to do something because this is not okay. And it was one thing, but then from there, it just expanded out across the whole county. So I lead an environmental organization in Volusia County, and I'll stop with that.
Well, thank you so much. And we appreciate all of the work you do north of Brevard, and we absolutely see how much you're doing there.
Thanks.
Now we're going to go to Elizabeth Baker. Tell us about how you got into advocacy.
I am an accidental advocate. I started picking up trash several years ago in my own neighborhood because I wanted to get some exercise. That snowballed as soon as I realized how bad the trash problem really was. Then I started learning about microplastics. Then I started learning about chemicals leaching into the environment from the plastics. And that led me to STEL. That led me to Fight for Zero. And here I am. And now good luck getting me to shut up. And it really is that simple. It went from that point to that point to that point, and now here I am. So that's it. It was really just merely an accident, and we definitely we have major problems. So,
and we appreciate everything you're doing too, Elizabeth. I'm so lucky to be surrounded by everyone on this call, and that's kind of what this is going to be about, is like having a strong network. So next, we want to learn more about how Cheryl got into advocacy.
So how I got into advocacy was after my sister passed away from leukemia in 1999. A short time after that, I found out a classmate of hers had also died of leukemia. And it just started a snowball of finding so many alumni that went to our school that had cancer, autoimmune diseases, or children born with birth defects. And, one question leads to 100 more questions. And the next thing, you're right in the middle of an advocacy. And I quickly learned how to start navigating county commission meetings, school board meetings. I also quickly learned how nobody's willing really to help you. You have to get out there and do it yourself. And like Aaron Brockovich told us, Superman's not coming. And then a family friend, shared on my Facebook page about when you all had your town hall meeting over there in Satellite Beach. And that's how I met Stell. And that's where Fight for Zero was kind of born. Jeff and Emerald and Stella and I got together and said, how can we bring all of our, we all had the same goal, and that was just to help the people in our communities to find what the causes were. Because, if we can find the causes of these illnesses, then, that's going to help us tremendously. And that's how Fight for Zero was formed. It was a birth out of multiple people being advocates. And I'm proud to be a part of the groundbreaking team. Stell is seriously an amazing person, and I'm honored to work with her when I can.
That's Cheryl, and I'm just like, I feel like we're all put in each other's pathways for a reason.
I agree.
So Libby, she's still having trouble signing on. If we get her on along with a few other people, we will bring them in and in the conversation while we're having it. So quickly, I know a majority of people that are probably on this live know my story, but in case you don't, I got into advocacy by mistake as well. I always say that we never choose advocacy. Advocacy chooses us. And in 2013, my family went through the unimaginable. It started off with our uncle who lived with us growing up, being diagnosed with cancer. We didn't think anything of it. He was older. And then a few months later, our family dog. We didn't really think anything of that either. But it wasn't until my 21-year-old brother was diagnosed with cancer. And then 3 months later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And then my father was diagnosed with cancer, that we started questioning things about what were happening, because we had experts coming to us out of their way to come into the rooms where we were receiving treatments to ask us numerous questions about the environment that we grew up in. And it was actually documented in my medical records that this was likely environmentally caused. Our case was extremely unique. We had genetic testing done with no mutation genes. And so that led me on this journey of, it was like this fire that was lit within me that said, I need to learn more. I need to know more. I need to understand how this happened to my family. And a lot of people don't realize how diseases really impact your family. I mean, not just from a caregiver perspective, but also as a patient. And we had to deal with both sides of that. And it was very traumatic. It was a very difficult journey for us. And I felt like I didn't want to waste using that experience to make a difference in the world today. And learning about our drinking water and our water quality here on Florida's Space Coast, and that we had some of the worst drinking water at one point in time, really gutted me, because I know my family wasn't empowered with the information. And so that's what led me on advocacy. I never chose to be an advocate. It just happened. And that fire within me, it takes more than one log to keep a fire going. So you've got 4 logs right here sitting on this live right now. So to move on, we learned quickly that topics like dirty water are political and profitable. Navigating advocacy is a learning curve as we educate ourselves on laws, public records, politics, and more. While people enjoy their families during holidays, on the weekends, on a Friday night, you'll see people like us instead reading EPA documents, and watching council meetings online. So the next question we're going to get to is, what are some of the things that you had to learn and navigate as an advocate? Suzanne?
Yeah, so this question is I've learned a lot, and I did it by touring things. I've toured 2 wastewater treatment plants in Volusia County at opposite ends of the county. They really don't want to open the doors for tours anymore over here, because once you know what's going on and you say it, it's not popular. I have been to the landfill and toured that. I toured the largest, I'm going to call it toilet to tap or wastewater to tap water facility. If you don't know, it was in Daytona Beach. They were the pilot test. It was the largest pilot test plant in the state. And they opened it up to the public for tours, and only 8 people showed up. And Libby was there with me. We were 2 of the 8 people. And there was only 1 elected official there, which I thought was interesting because they could hold more people, but they didn't come. I've toured a recycling plant, and I've taken most of the Volusia County classes offered that the county itself offers. I'm constantly trying to learn to keep up. And I had a crash course in politics like no one could possibly imagine. And I'm constantly learning that too. But like I said, I'm a quick study, and the politics really sunk in very quickly with that. So I've just done as many things as I could possibly do, and I'm constantly reading. And I attend many, if not, I don't attend all, but most of the county council meetings. So I also go to city commission meetings, but I only have so much time. So I have to pick and choose what meetings I'm going to go to. But the county council meetings I go to, I would say, the most. And from doing all of that, it gives me experiences that even elected officials don't have themselves. So they don't like it when you talk about those things. So I'll stop right there because I don't want to keep eating up the time.
It's fine, and we can also have an open discussion. But what are some things that you had to learn to navigate through this? Elizabeth, you have anything to add? Or?
I think the biggest thing as far as navigating government entities, going into the city meetings, the county meetings. I think my expectations of what our elected officials do and would do as my representative was what surprised me the most. And I think that just learning how much smoke and mirrors is out there to make things kind of appear like everything is okay, everything's fine, and really realizing that, and I'm not trying to be hateful by any means, just realizing that a lot of the people that are sitting in those seats, we kind of have a Wizard of Oz syndrome. What's behind the curtain? What's really going on here? Because a lot of what is said at public meetings is not what's really happening behind the scenes. And then also, which I know that we'll discuss this in a little bit, also realizing that going in there as a voter, going in there as a constituent, going in there as a concerned citizen doesn't really hold a lot of weight for a lot of the people sitting behind those seats. They're a little too comfortable with making fun of or being dismissive to people in the community that are really just truly here because we care. That surprised me. That really surprised me. And on top of that, I have learned how to read DOD reports, read EPA reports, dig through county paperwork, finding things like where money has been spent. Oh my gosh. I mean, the rabbit holes that we have been down just trying to find out where, a little bit of money from one specific project was spent. I mean, it's unbelievable. And you really, really learn how that bureaucracy kind of keeps things from the public. And it makes sense to me why so many people in our public really have no idea what's going on. That was a big eye opener for me.
Yeah. Cheryl?
So I've narrowed it down to two things that I think that I would discuss tonight. The two things that I had to learn pretty quickly, on top of like what Elizabeth was saying, because your research, you got to bring your stuff to the table. You've got to bring your evidence. And I will, when I go to a meeting or wherever I'm going, I'm bringing evidence with me. I'm not going to go, well, I think. I'm bringing evidence with me. And I think that's important. But the two things that I narrow it down to are the procedures, like understanding the procedures, like a school board meeting versus a county commission meeting, and what are their rules. Like you can't just stroll in and just start talking about something and expect, for them to make a vote or make a motion on anything. For example, when we brought the Bayshore issue to the county commission meeting, just lucky they were having a land use meeting for the future property, for the property next door, for the VOTAC. So that opened the door for us to get the subject on the table. And then I think the other thing that's important is to reach out to your county commissioners, your city commissioner, your school board members, whoever it is that you're dealing with, and get a feel for them. And I can tell you, you can find out pretty quick who you can trust and who you can't. And I've always gone with my gut, and my gut has never failed me yet. So those are the first two things that I think are important, is knowing your local government or whatever entities that you're dealing with, and getting to know that those key people that you're going to have to be dealing with. And a lot of this is politically driven too, so it changes, and that makes it difficult too, because I've been doing this for I've lost count, I think like 18 years. So I can tell you how many school board members have changed, how many retired, how many people got appointed. And it's important to get to know those people. And I can tell you, your gut, go with your gut. Your gut won't fail you.
Yeah, I had to learn a lot and navigate a lot when I first got into this. Like you said, many of us spend many sleepless nights doing in-depth research, and you start going down rabbit holes, and it's endless, and it goes on until 5 years later. And it's worth the research because we've had a lot of successes, but throughout that process, we had to learn the laws. The laws are extremely complicated. They're written to protect the polluters. So that was one thing that we had to really navigate and learn about. And we reached out to experts in various subjects, whether it was public record requests, FOIA requests, the law and how the law is written, federal versus state law. And so that is all a part of navigating advocacy. And it doesn't just have to be environment or health. I think that goes along with any kind of advocacy. It's a learning curve. It's very time consuming. It takes a lot of sacrifice. Again, many of us can sit here and say that while people are celebrating holidays, we're working. We're out there documenting manatees, monitoring wildlife, and doing things that most people it doesn't occur to them.
Right. Or using
down
vacation days to go to county commissioner meetings or city commissioner meetings or Tallahassee.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So when we use our voices, we become targets too. And I know this is a topic that we said we're going to talk about tonight. So let's get our cups ready. Let's discuss what we have been through to provide critical information to the public, because that's what we're doing. We're providing information to the public to help protect them. And so our next segment, we will discuss examples of retaliation and challenges that we face as advocates. First thing we'll talk about are public servants and their dismissive and abusive behavior. Have you experienced this, and do you have any examples of it? Suzanne?
Yes. I really appreciate what she said about going with your gut. It did take me a while to trust my gut instinct. And my gut instinct is hardly ever wrong. So I appreciate you saying that. As far as examples, yeah. I am in an unusual situation. In my own city, I've accomplished more in the county than I have in my own city. And the mayor in my city, at one point, this happened last year, wrote a letter to our local newspaper. If I were to write a letter to the newspaper, they give it to the mayor to counteract my own letter. And I was in a position, I was trying to get some land purchased by the county. And he wrote a letter to the newspaper comparing me personally to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And said that there was nothing wrong, that I blow up everything. And I mean, imagine being in the newspaper, you know, with your own mayor saying that you are blowing everything out of proportion. There's nothing wrong with the current situation. And I don't know. I mean, between the media itself and the elected officials, they are definitely giving what I call preference in the media, and I see it all the time. I see it with you, Stel. When I'm paying attention, I see it, and it is really hard to overcome because obviously elected officials in the newspaper have a really broad stretch. So how do you combat things like that? It can be brutal to overcome. And in the case that he wrote to the paper about, I did overcome it. I purchased 600 yard signs, and I went and knocked on doors in my own city, and we handed out all 600 in the county, and I was able to get the land purchased. But it was very it's an eye opener to be in the newspaper and be the focus of what is they want to call, fake, or it's not real. So anyway, I'll stop there, but yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about the media. I'm sure there's other examples of that. They definitely show preference, and sometimes, I mean, I'm very grateful for the few media outlets that have been amazing to us, but we do have a few that haven't, that like you said, we'll get into that later. I think we have a media section, so I don't want to get too much into it. I see Elizabeth smiling.
Yeah.
But,
so our city newspaper is very partial to our Ormond Commission and not to me. So I know when I have to, I get more things done in the county than I do the city I live in. Yeah.
Yeah. So. And like, it's frustrating for me because I originally went to college for journalism, and then I ended up in photography instead. And I did that for magazine work. So I kind of have an understanding of journalism, and there's an ethics issue in some of that. So what about Elizabeth? Have you experienced this? Can you give any examples of public servants' dismissive behavior?
I'll try to summarize as quickly as I can. I've been to public meetings, city meetings, county meetings. I can tell you of one incident specifically where I was invited to a county meeting to specifically speak about trash. And when I was done speaking, I had one commissioner compare me to somebody locally that has been known to really kind of act out of sorts in public and do crazy things. He was extremely dismissive and made the comment of, well, yeah, I'm sure you've picked up some trash. Obviously, he doesn't realize the hundreds of thousands of pounds of trash that I've picked up and organized events all over the place. And then we actually had the then chair of the commission say, oh yeah, those third world countries sure do throw a lot of trash in the water. And it was embarrassing to be dismissed like that in public. It was embarrassing to be made fun of. I mean, he literally made fun of me standing there. It made me not want to go back. It made me not want to engage with those leaders. It made me feel like the people that were supposed to be taking care of our county really didn't care one bit, by refusing to acknowledge that we have a problem. And I don't know if anybody's driven through Brevard County lately, but you can't look anywhere in this county without seeing trash on the ground somewhere, And so it's so frustrating. And I mean, I have not necessarily been myself the target of anything from a public servant anyway, but I've watched it and I've been very, very close to it. And I know oftentimes I will attend things because I know other advocates are going to be there. And I feel an obligation towards my brothers and sisters in this advocacy to be there, to be an extra set of eyes, to be an extra witness, to even potentially be protective of that person. I know one meeting that I attended with Stell, a person that has created her a lot of strife, walked into this room that was huge, had plenty of space to stay away from her, which she had been told to do, legally been told to stay away from her. And the woman made an absolute beeline for her. I physically put myself in between them, and she got so close to me that I literally could feel her breathing on my neck, trying to physically intimidate me. This is unbelievable, the way that some of the advocates that I know have been treated, not only by public officials, by other people in the public. And it seems like it's just completely normal and acceptable for our public officials to just dismiss, disregard, make fun of, just act in poor taste when all we're asking for is the truth. I think that we're all adults here. We can handle if our county or city or state made a mistake, made a poor decision. Okay, this is where we're at. Now what are we going to do about it? And for me, I don't find a lot of fault that something has happened. I find more fault when something has happened and they want to pretend it didn't. That's my biggest gripe there, is just the gaslighting and the dismissal and the outright refusal to acknowledge that there's a problem when there is one.
Yeah. Cheryl, do you have anything to add to that?
I do. And I'm glad that you led into that aspect of it, Elizabeth, because I ran into, I haven't dealt a lot with the things that Stell has. Mine has been more of, we'll get, either school board member or, a county commissioner or whomever that will meet with us and say they're going to help us. And, they want information from us, but then they don't follow through. They don't come back and, for example, we had experts that we had a geologist, we had a biostatistics expert, and these experts worked with us on our cancer cluster study pro bono. Okay, so these guys, if we had to pay out of our pocket, we wouldn't be able to afford it. So after the Department of Health did their health study, and turned around and said we weren't a cancer cluster, which we knew that's what they were going to say, because if they find a cancer cluster, then they're going to have to deal with it. Our experts were challenging them and saying, here's why there's flaws. And we cannot get one single school board member or county commissioner to say, hey, these guys want to present a report to us, let's give them the opportunity. Instead, they all pass the buck and go, well, you got to call the school board, or the county commissioner said no, or, and it's past the buck. It's the dog and pony show when it's a meeting, and there's never really a true bona fide effort to want to help, to get answers, because they know they're negligent. At the end of the day, these people are culpable negligent. Some of these decisions may not have happened on their watch, but knowing and not doing anything, I'm sorry, that's culpable negligence. And that's the kind of stuff that I've run into, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating.
And in the same like on the other side of that, right? Politicians love using people as tools too. So if they can use you to make themselves look better, they're going to. If they can use you as a scapegoat, they're going to. I do want to bring up some of the things we've been through, and maybe you guys can jump in at any time because it's a lot, but I'm going to try to keep it short. All right. So we've had to pay for police to sit outside our homes, to attend events for us. We, in the very beginning, when we started speaking out and using our voices and bringing this to the forefront, where we live and how there were toxins in our water, and at some of the highest levels in the nation, specifically from politicians and city councils, we had learned that they were sending public records. Through public records, we learned that they were sending emails to their friends throughout the city to come and speak against us at city council meetings. They were conspiring against us through these communications. We have them. This is another good point. What they do is they use their workers as tools. And I know many of you can jump in at any point, have experienced this as well. What they'll do, and this is a tactic, and I think that the public needs to be made aware of this, especially the people that work for cities, because they'll use the workers as a scapegoat in a sense of saying that we're attacking them personally, when it's really we're attacking the policies, we're attacking, the laws, we're attacking the things that have occurred that weren't taken care of 20 years ago. It's never about the workers personally. An example of that is when there was a 7 million gallon sewage spill in the city of Titusville. The first thing that they did was invite all of the workers that were working on that sewage spill to the city council meeting, and they turned the narrative around from the sewage spill to about the workers, making it appear as though advocates were attacking the workers rather than making it about the issue at hand, which was sewage. And that has happened time and time again. We have learned how to navigate that. And I think that if workers just recognize that we're not attacking them, not every advocate is crazy with pitchforks. We're here as a resource for the community. We wouldn't have that issue. We've had rumors spread. We've had buzzwords put out about us, such as fear mongers. If you guys have other ones to add in there, crazy.
They're all just a bunch of tree huggers.
Yeah.
I love that.
I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And we've had to pay tens of thousands of dollars for lawyers on protection orders, lawsuits, and which have been dismissed and have not. We can't even get our case heard.
Well, and I'll throw in there too. I mean, let me just remind everybody that like Fight for Zero is not like some major, huge organization that has tons and tons of money. Those legal fees came out of the pockets of the people in Fight for Zero. Like that was, none of us are super wealthy people by any means. That is real money. That money came out of your kids' mouths. I mean, and that is, there's no way of recovering that. That doesn't, you're not going to get that money back. You had to spend it to protect yourself. And that it's unbelievable to me that so many advocates seem to have this same experience where they find themselves literally like legally battling because they spoke out against something that they know damn well was wrong.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it just goes beyond this. I would say that in the beginning, it was a lot harder than it is now. I feel like we've earned the respect of a lot of leadership in this county. I will put that out there. I think they see that we're serious about this, that we're passionate, we're genuine. But it's pathetic and it's sad that it took us going through all of that for them to listen to us, for them to care, for them to be like, wait a minute, I think this may be a problem. It took us working on a national level and proving that we could accomplish so much more than they had ever imagined, and not putting that fire out. We should have never gone through the harassment, the torment, the battle up against, whether it was public officials, the workers, their friends throughout the city. We should have been getting transparency from the beginning. I think we've all dealt with the lack of transparency. A lot of officials are scared to be honest, because I've been told by a senator here, by the way, we've been called little girl at numerous meetings by old gross men, by the way. So just FYI. But we've been told that it is our job not to cause panic in the community. But a perfect example of this is Flint, Michigan, right? Look at how long they withheld that information. There's already trust issues with our government, and they need to be looking at advocates like us as a resource and being transparent, because that's all we ask for. We just want the truth. And when you lie, you make things a whole lot worse, because we're going to find out you're lying. We dig, we research. We're a pretty intelligent group here, right? So you should definitely, be telling the truth. So I'm sure there's a lot more. I don't know if you guys want to add more to that conversation. I'm sure we could go on about it, but now that time has gone by, and now that we've had a 3-year study with university, and we've really proven ourselves, things have really calmed down. I think that there's a mutual understanding there that we weren't here like some advocacy groups, and that's the next discussion I think we're going to get into. So let's do that. You guys ready for that?
Yeah,
we're ready.
We're ready.
Because not all advocacy groups people are the same, and that doesn't mean all of them are bad. But again, this is the thing where you have to. I've found you have to go with your gut instinct. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, so let's talk about other advocacy and organizations, especially the ones that have political and financial interests. Have you ever experienced harassment from other advocates, like spreading harmful rumors, filing complaints?
Anybody? So I did, and I'll tell you, what I did with this person, because in a perfect world, we would think all advocates think like us, and they're out there like us and have the same goal as us. And then there's some narcissistic ones out there, and it's all about them, and they want to carry the torch. I could care less who carries the torch. At the end of the day, if we just get answers and get stuff cleaned up, I'm a happy girl. I could care less who carries the torch. But I'll give you one example. Is we had the opportunity to block a permit with Mosaic through the Florida DEP. And so long story short, one of these narcissistic advocates wanted to take the torch. And I figured, okay, well, this person has more experience researching Mosaic than I do. Absolutely, go for it. And let's put it this way. This person took another advocate's work and ended up bombing the whole thing. And he was almost going to be in legal trouble himself. And at the end of the day, he caused more damage. I knew all along that this guy couldn't be trusted. And you know what? My gut instinct was right about this person. So yeah, that's my little experience with other advocates. And then you have advocates like you ladies and like Stell that are phenomenal, that you're honored to work beside. And that's why I'm still here. So
I do want to add to this that it's one thing not to like someone or not to like an organization or a business, right? But it's a whole other thing to retaliate and make it your mission to ruin somebody's reputation. And that has been my experience with a very few other advocates. I'm so lucky, like you pointed out, Cheryl. We have an amazing network of people of support, and I think we're all drawn to one another because we know where our hearts are and we know that this is a passion for us. But then there's those select few that make it their mission to ruin your reputation. It's about credit for them, notoriety, and there's usually political and financial interests behind them. You'll notice that a lot of them run for politics, for a political position, or you'll notice they're raising thousands of dollars from the community on an issue that you worked extremely hard on. And
they
so,
just happen to be using your photographs and your information that they're running on. I mean, there's another part of it too that I've watched over and over again, where people will literally try to use, specifically Fight for Zero's work, the photographs that I have taken. Like showing up on somebody else's website, or even showing up in a newspaper, saying, giving the impression that somehow that person was involved in what we were doing. And it happens all too much here locally anyway. The other part of this, I think a lot of times these organizations start with good intentions, and then the money comes in. And, then all of a sudden they've got tons and tons of money, so they kind of are beholden to whomever gave them that money. And if that person that gave them that money happens to have some nefarious ideas about things, they kind of end up doing their bidding, whether they really want to or not. Then they're invested in it. So then, they're digging their heels in, and they're going to act like, well, you know what, this is okay. This is okay that I'm doing this. And it does snowball kind of out of control until you lose trust for that organization, and you lose trust for that person because they've done so many things or taken so much money from people that they shouldn't be. I do find it really, really hard to trust, like, for instance, an environmental organization that is taking money from somebody like Mosaic. Yeah. I have a real hard time trusting that. Why on earth would you beholden yourself to somebody that we know is a polluter? Huge polluter. So it doesn't make any sense to me how anybody would align themselves with that. That's just, I don't know. I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to accept money from somebody like that. It wouldn't be okay with me.
And this conversation goes like hand in hand with what we were going to talk about with like intimidation tactics, and like how people, because it's not just, say, public officials or who you would think it would be, like government or the polluters that are attacking you, but then it's like people within your own community, whether it's workers, people that work for the company, or these other advocates that we're talking about. And one of the things I learned, and I regret deeply, is not making police reports sooner, right? Because the harassment starts very slowly and little by little. And it eventually escalates and gets worse and worse until it's completely out of control. And I stayed silent for years on harassment I was dealing with because I thought I could deal with it behind the scenes through attorneys and through police reports and taking it to court. And unfortunately, the laws are very it's very difficult to get people for stalking and things like that. And it's very costly to do defamation type lawsuits and things like that. And so I should have spoke out sooner. So if you are an advocate on this live right now, or you're somebody that is wanting to help, and there's something that happens to you regarding harassment, or somebody slandering you online, there were so many lies about me rumors being spread by one particular individual. And what happened was I let it go for so long, people started to believe it and help spread the lies. And then they joined in on the harassment. And unfortunately, that's just our world today with social media. People join in and they feel like they have to take sides instead of standing up to a bully and asking the individual, why are you obsessed with Stell? What is your deal? Like everybody just, you were a part of the problem if you remained silent and sat back, because that the person is not mentally stable. Let's just put it that way. And I mean, my address got doxxed. Here's a picture. I don't want to keep going, like just jump in, but here's a picture of just one out of numerous people that showed up to my house. My neighbor took this photo. She was super freaked out because people were showing up to my house. I had to make police reports because they doxed my address, and they knew what they were doing because they did it in a roundabout way. They published my nonprofit address, which is my personal address, and posted it online so that people would see it. And they said, go to her house and ask her about the $1 million she's making. If you've seen my car that I drive, you know damn well I'm not making $1 million.
$1 million. Because in fact, Stella, if you remember when we first had our very first meeting back in 2018 to discuss, bringing our forces together, with Fight for Zero, one of the first things we talked about is we weren't going to get in the, raise money thing. And if we did, it would be just for testing. And we stuck by that. So no, Stell doesn't make $1 million. None of us make anything. And you girls,
and we've literally had people accuse us of filtering funds for political parties. Like, what on earth? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Stell.
Yes, Suzanne.
Hint.
We said that we were nonpartisan, because what we said is toxins do not know, they don't know party affiliation. They don't. So
true.
That's two things we talked about, is that we were not going to be like thumping people out there to like raise money real hard. And we were going to be nonpartisan. And we still, that's two things that we still stand by. And I'm very proud of us for that, because like you said earlier, it is easy to get caught up in the, well, this company, we're just going to sponsor you a little. What they mean is they want to buy you a little and see how much they can buy you for. Yeah. And we're not for sale, are we?
We're not for sale, Suzanne.
Sale.
Nope.
So I got started in 2017, and in 2018, I had not, I had been living in my house for forever, and I had to get a security system put on my house. And I remember my husband saying to me, I don't know if I want you to do this. When you turn your life upside down and you've been living there forever, and so many people in the community, and then one day you have people driving up to your house and pulling in your driveway and just sitting there, and you have to get a security system. It is an eye-opener. So I get that. What I want to say about the organizations in our county, they don't ever show up with anything that is the truth of the situation that is wrong. They only want to show up and speak when things are peaches and cream. They all show up to tell our council or commissioners what an awesome job they do. And they will even show up, if I show up armed with information, they will show up to oppose me in a way that they just tell them how great they are and what a good job they do. But the facts are always the facts, right? That's what always speaks the truth, is the facts. So no matter how many of them show up, because there is a group that tends to show up if they find out that I'm going to be there, it's all good. I mean, I say bring it, because the facts are the facts no matter what.
Facts
always
are
are.
facts and facts don't lie.
That's right.
The truth. Facts are facts.
And
Yep.
you know you're doing good when they have to attack your character, or they have to attack, like they go after my red hair all the time, for instance. And it's like, are we talking about red hair, or are we talking about the lagoon, the water, the cancer cases? You know what I mean? And so those are things that I think our community as a collective, we could be working together to combat. Right? We could say, listen, no personal attacks. I don't even like people personally attacking politicians, because it's not addressing the issues, right? Directly. It's attacking the person.
It's deflection.
Yes, it's a deflection.
Right.
And so I also want to go through, I have other examples. Okay. Here's my car. I posted it online earlier. My car was deeply keyed, not just once, multiple times across the entire driver's side. I've had this for a few years. I did try to use a black pen, but then I was like, you know what? I think this is a good example and a good story to tell people when they see my car and they're like, what happened? And I could say advocacy. That's what happened. I was fighting for clean water. And apparently clean water is a really offensive subject. So they decided to key my car. And I also have had my tires slashed, and I've tried to document everything and make police reports regarding this. We also received stuff in the mail, more than one thing. And but one of the craziest things we received in the mail was a 12-page insane lunatic packet with rantings that had things like this that helped me with bloody hands on it. And it just went on and on. It sounded ludicrous, whoever wrote it. We know that there were multiple people involved in this packet. Here's another example. It says, that will surely be completely discussed in another letter. So throughout this packet, they promised they were going to send more letters through the mail to harass us. We actually turned this packet into the FBI. And like I said, there were multiple people included, because we got public records and text messages that showed them communicating and talking about creating the creation. Here's another crazy lunatic rant. It's a Dr. Seuss. I mean, I can't make this stuff up. That's why I'm showing you guys. And just one more thing from the packet, this particular packet. Just give the data to the manager. Did I say it enough? And they even put that we are nothing but butt wipes to the community. That shows you the maturity level and the possible mental instability that we're dealing with when we're doing this work. And that's just one example. Another example, very similar to this letter, is a letter that was sent to Dr. Julie Greenwald. She sent it to me and showed me. It was around the same time we got this 12-page packet. And it was also filled with similar text, if that makes sense. And this is just an example. It said, I request that you advise her to cease and desist. This is a comment that I got in the mail with fake cease and desist that weren't drawn up by actual attorneys. They were harassing me through nonsense cease and desist, sending me numerous through email, because they were trying to silence me. And this is the other part of that packet to Dr. Julie Greenwald. They tried to make it appear as though it was Jeff who, has helped Fight for Zero, helped fund testing. He's done a great deal for the community. He says, I am a father of grade school children. I have no appreciation for Dr. Greenwald coming into our community and causing this kind of hysteria. I ask that you instruct. Now, this is important, because what I'm about to show you next is the same verbiage that's in here. I instruct Dr. Greenwald to make a public apology. And this person was too coward to sign their damn name. They signed it, a concerned Satellite Beach resident. So this happened around the same exact time we got that 12-page packet. Then throughout the past few years, a certain individual was sending our academic partners emails. And as you can see, it says, I will be filing a complaint to the EPA. Please take care of the problem. This person is talking about taking care of Fight for Zero. They want them to drop us as partners. Do you see how it's so similar to all the other insane lunatic? And then one more, just to show you an idea. And the media, that red arrow shows you the media is aware that this is happening. They're aware that this lunatic is writing crazy rants about me to academic partners. Insane lunatic. They said, I hope that you would take some action yourself to rectify the situation. I mean, making insane demands, lunatic rants. And I mean, this is just 2 out of hundreds of emails that were sent regarding me and Fight for Zero. And just, that's just an example. I had to go through that. Does
well, I've literally had people contact me and tell me not to talk to you still. Mm-hmm. Like we're in 7th grade, like, oh, don't like that girl, don't talk to that girl, because I'm better than her. What are you talking about? You don't get to tell me who I talk to. You don't get to tell me who I spend time with. You don't get to tell me where I volunteer or what I do with my time. And, until I'm shown something that says that this group is bad, I'm not there. There's absolutely nothing that I've seen out of Fight for Zero that makes me lead to believe that there are any kind of bad intentions anywhere with anybody involved with this group or any other group that we work with. And, for these people to act like that, I don't know. I had one guy contact me and say, they're filtering money for the Republican Party. And I was like, okay, well, show me. Well, I've got the receipts. Well, where are they? Well, I've got them. Well, show me. Well, I've got them. I mean, this went on for hours and hours and like forever. And I'm like, come on. If you're going to come to me and tell me that somebody has done something wrong and that I shouldn't be working with them, then you better bring those receipts, because until I see it with my own 2 eyes, I'm not going to believe it. These are people that I now care about. I went from being a volunteer to being a friend and somebody that I truly care about. I adore Stell and her family. They're wonderful, wonderful people. And the idea that you and Jeff specifically have had to put security cameras up, that you have had to pay out of pocket for extra security measures in your lives, it breaks my heart, because you are doing such a wonderful service for this community. And if anybody really paid attention, I'd put you in charge of Brevard County if I could.
Well, Elizabeth, I think that tells us that Stell is doing such a bang up job, and that's why you're getting so much flack. And you know what? Yep. As long as we continue to do a bang up job, you know what? We're going to have to deal with this kind of stuff. Yeah. So, and I mean, it's almost kind of like the cost of doing business. Yep. And
yeah, it does. It does come with a certain amount of uncomfortableness that we all have to deal with.
Right. I'm just surprised, though, that the media wouldn't pick up on that and kind of look at that. But then again, too, though, let me give you an example that when I dealt with the media, it was around the time that they were going to have the town hall meeting, and they were discussing, implementing what they were going to do the Bayshore Health Study for the cancer cluster investigation. And I had a local newspaper, 2 local newspapers. I want to give a shout out to the Bradenton Times. They're an online newspaper, and Dennis Maley and his crew there are off the chain. They do honest, transparent reporting, and without them, I don't think we would have ever as far as we did. And so I love them. They're honest. The Bradenton Herald, not so much. The Bradenton Herald is the kind, their reporters would take my information, and I know they would give it back to the county. And in fact, so much to the point where before one of the meetings, the reporter called me he must have asked me 70 questions that day. I mean, it was ridiculous, to the point where I said, good Lord, if I didn't know any better, I would swear I was on trial. And he goes, well, you basically are. It's just like the gut feeling on your advocates and what school board members and what county commissioners and officials that you can. It's the same thing with the media. John Rogers, he's now an anchor in Virginia, but he used to work for 8 on Your Side in Tampa. Honest, great guy. So like there are good media outlets out there. There are. I'm giving you hope.
I agree.
There are good ones out there, right? And you just have to go with your gut on those as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm glad you went into that because we're towards the end. And those that are on the live right now on Facebook, I'll drop a link so you can hop on and maybe tell a little bit of your story, and then we'll jump off because we still have spots available since some people weren't able to jump on. But I was expecting Libby to be on this call, and unfortunately she was having technical difficulties. But I put this on here because I thought it was super important to go over just what she's been through. Libby has been through hell this year. She's been targeted just like all of us. One of the things that was just absolutely mind-blowing to me was she's not running for any political position. And she was included in a political smear campaign in a mailer that was sent out. And here's an example of that mailer. And that's the front of it. And if you look, she's on the bottom left corner. So what they do is they attack your character, but she's not even running. She's not even running for office. And because she supports a certain candidate, and because she's a well-known voice in her area, she was targeted and put on this smear campaign. And they will use your background. If they can't come after you, I know for a fact they've looked into my entire family. My stalkers have, because they've openly said that they have researched my cousins and my uncles, and as far down the line as they can. If they can find anything wrong in your family, they will try to use, if they've been to jail, for instance, they'll try to use that to damage your character.
I always say that they'll create baggage, even if you don't have any baggage. They will just create your baggage.
Well, and God forbid you actually do have any. Right. And the other thing there is, like, why is this acceptable? Well, that's the other thing. Why is that acceptable behavior? Why I don't understand why like hordes of people aren't showing up and fighting over that.
They don't. And it's a distraction. It's a total distraction.
It's not a forum like what we're doing right now. And there's not enough awareness to realize what a big problem it is, that just ordinary citizen advocates out there trying to make a positive difference in their communities. And we're getting this kind of retaliation. People not enough people, like you were saying, 8 people showed up at the water treatment plant or whatever, right? So like it's hard to get the community involved with cleaning up the environment and what's going on in the community, let alone what's happening to the advocates. That's just like a whole nother little issue. And until we bring awareness to it, and I think this is a great forum to start, because I can tell you there's plenty of it going along, and this is how it starts. This is how you bring awareness to it.
I view it that they want to create a distraction.
Right.
It can be painful. It can be painful. If you're slapped on a mailer like what they did to Libby, it's painful. Mm-hmm. But it's also a distraction from the bigger truth of the situation.
It's definitely a distraction. We're sitting here talking about this instead of talking about the pollution and the concerns that we really have in our communities. We're having this discussion to let people, just give people some insight onto what advocates go through, But, we shouldn't even be having to have this conversation. I mean, there's a certain level of uncomfortableness that I think that we're all willing and we understand we're going to have. I'm a homebody. I stay at home a lot. I don't really go and do things with a lot of people. I don't have a ton of friends. I have a very select few of people that I spend time with. And I go to the grocery store and people are like, oh, you're that trash woman, or I'm having dinner out in public. And I've literally had people come and sit down at my table and want to talk to me. And I'm like, I'm having dinner with my family right now. Can you not do this? And there is a little bit of that where it's just innocent and it's just uncomfortable. But, the attacks and that's a separate part of this that shouldn't be acceptable to anybody. And, I don't know that there could ever be any real legislation put in place, or, maybe some of the stalking laws and that kind of thing need to be rehabbed in our law books, because, it shouldn't be all right for somebody to just be, it's like the emails, the over and over and over emailing our partners and saying, don't work with her, or I'm going to file a complaint with the EPA. That should be wrong. That should be illegal. People should end up in jail for that kind of thing. That you're destroying somebody's life here. Mm-hmm. You're literally trying to destroy professional relationships. Yep. And that should not be okay. It wouldn't be any different than me trying to get you fired from your job.
Well, not to mention it's doing a disservice for the community, because the work we're doing is going to be protecting our children and their children, and helping us get policy changes and helping us push for a cleaner environment and better healthcare options, things like that, medical monitoring, blood testing. And by doing that, the community should feel offended as a whole.
Well, and I wonder how many people really have been silenced. I really do. I wonder how many people have just stepped out of it and said, I can't deal with this.
I think it's more of an intimidation factor, so that people will walk away, so people will give up. Because like I said, I've been doing this for 18 years. And let me tell you what, when you pour your heart and soul into it, to the point where you have professional experts that are pro bono offering their services to you, and you have county and state officials going, we don't care. That's enough to make you want to walk away. It's like, where else do you turn? If you can't bring hard evidence to the table and they won't look at it, what do you, and it's intimidation. And you know what, honestly, I'm sure it's pretty effective, but I mean, I'm still here, but I'm sure there were others before me that said, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure there's been plenty of those.
I just sent an invite link. I'm going to give everyone, a minute to jump on, to join us in the conversation for closing. If you have anything to add, things that you have been through, and we'd love to have that conversation with you if you want to jump on. But yeah, it's insane what they've done. And you're right, Elizabeth, we shouldn't be having this conversation, but I think by educating the community of what's really happening behind the scenes, it helps arm them to be able to help support us. And I think that's important too, because if they don't know what's going on, how can they support us?
You know what? I think it's important. And I think, Elizabeth, I think it was you that said earlier about how people, on Facebook and comments and stuff that people make, it would be nice if people out in the community would get involved. Doesn't necessarily have to be Fight for Zero, but pick a good, solid advocacy group that's working and get out there and help make a difference. Because it's like Horton hears a who, one little voice may not be heard, but you get all the little who's in Whoville,
right?
They're going to be heard. They're going to be heard. And that's the only way we're going to make change. And that's exactly when we started Fight for Zero. That's what our intention was to unite us across the state. And then once we get to that point, take it across the United States, because
Right.
this isn't a problem we know is just, for Florida. It's across the United States.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are multiple wonderful advocacy groups out there that, are willing to partner with other groups, to work with them, not even necessarily partner like in a legal form, but, we're willing to have conversations with other advocates. We're willing to, maybe it's not necessarily fight for zero. Like maybe they're just working on one specific type of pollution or one specific thing,
Right.
but we can all work together because ultimately the goal is the same. We all want a healthy environment and healthy people.
Correct.
I just wanted to say still that it's unfortunate that Libby could not get on tonight,
I know.
because she has been, when you are attacked on a postcard mailing to the people in our county, she is speaking the truth, strong and hard and direct. And personally, I appreciate her so much, because there are very few in our county, like I told you, who show up to say anything. And when a mailing is done and you're not even running for public office, and you're slapped on the mailing, you did an amazing job. So
Yes.
Libby, if you are listening right now, I appreciate you, and know that I love when you come forward and speak the truth to people. Just want to say that.
Yeah,
We love you, Libby.
Yeah, we love you, Libby. We think you are just so amazing, and she's so intelligent, and she knows what she's talking about. She does her research, and she puts her heart and soul into it. And
Well, that's why she's on a postcard.
But Libby, just know that they do
Credit
these
her.
things as a distraction, because what you're saying is so powerful. They want to distract away from that. So they slap you on that mailing with those other people.
You know what? That was a BOGO for them. They thought they were, vote for this guy. Oh, and by the way, Libby's this. BOGO. Hey, look, that Libby, that lets you know, honey, you're on to something. And you
That's right.
Doing Libby. You keep doing Libby.
That's right.
Keep doing Libby. Well, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Nobody else jumped on, but we will be doing more live streams. We've got some series coming out, a lot of projects that we're working on. And I'm just going to put in this plug really quick before I end it out. Please keep an eye. We are spending each day updating our website. So I'll put it on the bottom with it's fightforzero.org. You can also go to Elizabeth. What's the URLs now? Give us a couple URLs they can go to that are different.
Oh gosh, theindianriverlagoon.com. What was the other one? I can't remember. Indianrivermanatee.com. So we've got quite a few URLs coming out, and so that's amazing. We're excited about that. And I just want to say that the point of this broadcast was to make our neighbors more aware and let other advocates know that you are not alone. I think that's really important. You are not alone in this. I think everyone has experienced these things, and that's why we wanted to come here and have this discussion. We believe in community over competition, and that it takes working together to accomplish our goals no matter what we are fighting for. I also wanted to say, if it's in the interest of public health and public safety, we support you. Thank you for joining us in this live discussion, and be sure to follow us on YouTube for more videos like this. You are helping us by subscribing to our YouTubes and connecting with us on other social media platforms. So please connect with us there. If you are interested in doing a live stream with us, reach out and let us know. And thank you so much. If you replayed this, please put your comments below. Let us know what you've experienced, and let us know you're there. Push that heart button, push that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys again soon.
Well, when did the bar become set so low that any trace of any chemical was safe?